Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganda Chakrapani, President of today's inaugural session, and the distinguished Chief Guest, Professor Pinaki Chakrabarti, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, New Delhi, and another distinguished guest, Professor V. Balakrishna Reddy, Chairman, State Council of Higher Education, Telangana, and today's keynote speaker, distinguished person, Arvind Warrior, Life Member, the Indian Society of Technical Education, Kerala, and the other guests on the dais. I welcome you all for this national seminar. Indeed, it is a great honor to be a part of this discussion on federalism in India, devolution, development, and economic dynamics. At the outset, I congratulate the Department of Economics for selecting such an apt and timely topic for this seminar, that is fiscal federalism in India, devolution, development, and economic dynamics. In a rapidly evolving economic landscape, discussions on fiscal federalism are very much crucial for ensuring balanced growth, equitable resource distribution, and effective governance. Federalism is more than just a constitutional agreement. It is the backbone of India's economic governance, ensuring that power and resources are distributed effectively across different levels of the government. In India, fiscal federalism plays a crucial role in balancing national priorities with regional aspirations. The devolution of financial resources through mechanisms like the Finance Commission empowers states to drive localized governments. But however, there is always a big challenge. What is true fiscal autonomy? Because we are witnessing that states are struggling with the revenue generation and relying heavily on central transfers. If we talk about the development in this context, it is not just about economic growth, but about equitable progress across the states. Effective fiscal policies must ensure that no region is left behind and that financial devolution translates into better public services, infrastructure, and social welfare. Economic dynamics shaped by both domestic policies and global influences demand a continuous reassessment of our federal structure to promote resilience and inclusive growth. Therefore, I feel as academicians and policymakers, our role is to critically examine these frameworks, propose evidence-based solutions, and advocate for policies that are strengthened to cooperative federalism. But again, there's an important question here. How do we balance the autonomy and accountability? And how do we ensure that devolution leads to meaningful development rather than fiscal dependency? Dear friends, scholars, and policymakers, I hope this seminar provides an excellent platform to engage in meaningful dialogue and explore innovative solutions. I look forward to the insights and discussions that will emerge from this platform. I once again congratulate the efforts of the organizing team and wish the seminar a great success in shaping informed perspectives and policy discourses for future India. Thank you once again.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Now I request Madam Srinivas Rao, Professor Srinivas, a brief message.
Good morning to you all. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ganda Chakrapani garu, Vice President of Function this inaugural session. Chief Guest, Professor Pinaki Chakrabarti garu, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy. Another distinguished Chief Guest, V. Balakrishna Reddy garu, Telangana State Council of Higher Education Chairman. And today's keynote speaker, Arvind Warrior garu, Guest of Honors, Professor Pushpa Chakrapani garu, Director Academy, Registrar, Dr. M. V. Reddy garu, Seminar Director, Dr. K. Krishna Reddy garu, dignitaries of the dais, research scholars, students, friends. I welcome you all to this seminar on fiscal federalism in India, devolution, development, and economic dynamics. First of all, I would like to congratulate Department of Economics for choosing this wonderful topic. This is, in fact, a Department of Economics is one of the dynamic department in our faculty. In 1982, in UG courses in English and Telugu medium started in economics in UG level. And in 1996 onwards, we have been offering in MA economics also. In 2008 onwards, we have been offering in MPhil and PhD programs. And our research scholars are choosing international, very interesting topics like banking, agriculture, and tribal studies, economic studies, and regional studies also. They are doing some projects and research on these topics. So this topic really, this is a wonderful topic because fiscal federalism. What is fiscal federalism? Are we enjoying real fiscal federalism? In fact, this is a part of political federalism. In our country, are we enjoying cooperative federalism or coercive federalism? Because our central government is ruling as per our constitution, as per our system. Federalism is our part of our constitution, and they are fixing some norms about financial matters and political matters. My question is, central government, all taxes they are collecting. Like our major theme of this seminar is also latest trends in fiscal federalism and role of planning of finance commission and GST and devolution of funds to lower level like states and local bodies. But simple words, collecting all taxes to the central government, distributing responsibilities are bearing state governments and local bodies. How it is possible in this country? All state governments are asking their rights, equality versus efficiency. Equality is also very much important. Recently, I had watched one movie on Lapata ladies. In North India, literally speaking, there are facing a lot of problems, poverty, and they are not getting proper education, they are not getting proper health care, and they are not getting simple things also while comparing to South India. South Indian people are far better than North Indian people. But still, we are paying taxes. As a citizen of South India, we should ask for our right. We should ask for our equal share because we are paying 1 rupee tax, but we are contributing 1 rupee tax and we are getting back only 42 NP in Telangana. In other southern states also, minimal amount we are getting in tax revenue. In any central government, in unitary states, union governments, they are not our big bosses. They are our big brothers. They have to look after our welfare of our southern states also, southern people also. But in revenue matters, if you take any US example, in US, all states gets all tax amounts to the state revenue, state exchequer. But here we are not getting anything. After GST, recent examples already previous chief ministers and all southern states chief ministers are saying about this. We are not getting any revenue share from the GST amount. Sales tax, income tax, and other direct taxes, indirect tax, many areas tax collected by the central government, responsibilities based on state governments. How to cope up with this? This is a major issue now. Primary health care, primary education, and infrastructure development, and many areas, our thought process is different from other areas of this country. Because our education, we control population. We have very good governance. Previous government has initiated almost 490 policies. And now also state governments are very much proactive in all areas like education, like healthcare and other governance. Good governance they are trying to give. And local governance. But in panchayatis, we are not getting proper revenue share. How much we are paying? How much we are contributing? That is a major question. In division, not good because India is our country. We like India. We are Indians first. We like our Indian patriotism and everything. But our rights also very much important. How to balance those things. That is important. But political systems are different. Nowadays, national parties are thinking different, regional parties are different, thinking about federalism. Always ruling parties are thinking federalism differently, and opposition parties are different, thinking different federalism concepts. But my question is, citizens' welfare is a top priority. Governance is for the helping to lead happy life, to get good education, do good health care, do good governance. This kind of facilities as a citizen we need. For that, we need good governance. For that, we need revenue share. Coming 2 days, almost 78 papers we have Department of Economics received. We are going to deliberate different areas, different aspects of our fiscal federalism, devolution of funds, economic dynamics, and many areas. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, and I take this opportunity to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for encouraging us to organize this kind of seminars, debates, deliberations. Thank you, Vananda.
Thank you, Professor Srinivas. I request all the next speakers, of course, only registrar is there to give this message. To please keep the time in mind, because we have very distinguished speakers, two distinguished speakers. And now I request registrar to give a very brief message.
Thank you, sir. I request the president of this function to speak in Telugu.
Yes, you can. Yes,
thank you, sir.
That is part of,
Yes. Federalism.
Okay.
వేదిక నిర్లక్ష్యించిన ఈనాటి సభాధ్యక్షులు వైస్ ఛాన్సలర్ గారు అందరికీ చెప్పట్లే బికాస్ ప్రెసిడెంట్ నాట్ అలౌడ్ మీ టు స్పీక్ లైక్ దట్స్ వై. అందరు అతిథులకి శిరస్సు వచ్చి నమస్కరిస్తూ స్వాగతం పలుకుతూ ఇక్కడ ఉన్నటువంటి సహచరులకి ఆన్లైన్ లో ఉన్న వాళ్ళందరికీ కూడా నమస్కారం. నిజానికి చివరిలో మాట్లాడడం వల్ల ఒక అడ్వాంటేజ్ కూడా ఉంటుంది. చాలా విషయాలు వెళ్ళిపోయింటాయి కాబట్టి బ్రీఫ్ గా వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు. ఫెడరలిజం అనే పెద్ద విషయానికి ఇస్తే సత్సంబంధాలు కేంద్ర రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాల మధ్య అనే అంశం దగ్గర మొదలైతే ఆర్థిక అంశాలే ఎక్కువ ప్రభావం చూపిస్తాయి ఎక్కడైనా సరే, ఏ విషయంలో అయినా సరే. ఇప్పుడు మన టాపిక్ కూడా నిజానికి ఒక 5-6 సంవత్సరాలుగా తెలంగాణ రాష్ట్రం కావచ్చు, లేకపోతే ఇంకో రాష్ట్రం కావచ్చు, ఇంకో రాష్ట్రంగా దేశంలోని వివిధ రాష్ట్రాలు కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వం తమకి దక్కాల్సినటువంటి ఆర్థిక వనరులలో కోత విధిస్తోంది అని గొంతెత్తి అరుస్తున్నాయి. అక్కడికి ముఖ్యమంత్రులని, ఆర్థిక మంత్రులని పిలిచి సమావేశాలు పెట్టి అక్కడ తీసుకునే నిర్ణయాలు ఏవి అమలు చేయటం లేదు అనేది పెద్ద అంశం. అటువంటి తరుణంలోనే లోక్సభ నియోజకవర్గాల పునర్వ్యవస్థీకరణ దాని మీద కూడా జనాభా ప్రాతిపదిక అనేటప్పటికీ ఇంకొక ఆందోళన, ఆవేదన దక్షిణాది రాష్ట్రాల్లో వ్యక్తమవుతున్న తరుణంలో మొన్ననే చెన్నైలో సమావేశం జరిగింది. దాని కొనసాగింపులో ఇటువంటి అంశం మీద సదస్సు నిర్వహించడం నిజంగా ఫ్యాకల్టీ ఆఫ్ సోషల్ సైన్సెస్ ని, ముఖ్యంగా ఎకనామిక్స్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ని నేను మనస్ఫూర్తిగా అభినందిస్తున్నా. ఇక్కడ ఇంతకుముందే వీసీ గారి ఛాంబర్ లో ఒక చిన్న మాట మాట్లాడుకుంటుంటే, ఆర్థిక వనరులు జిఎస్టీ కావచ్చు, ఇంకో ట్యాక్స్ కావచ్చు, వాణిజ్యం వ్యాపారం చేసే దగ్గర ప్రధాన కేంద్ర కార్యాలయం ఎక్కడైతే ఉంటుందో అక్కడి నుంచే ట్యాక్స్ వస్తున్నట్టు నోట్ చేస్తారు, ఎంటర్ చేస్తారు, రికార్డ్ చేస్తారు. కాబట్టి మహారాష్ట్ర నుంచి మన దక్షిణాదిలో ఎక్కువ వస్తుంది అని, అంటే మనం రిలయన్స్ ఫోన్ మనం కొట్టే కూడా ట్యాక్స్ అక్కడి నుంచి పే చేసినట్టే అవుతుంది. ఈ డిస్పారిటీని అన్నింటినీ సవరించి అన్ని రాష్ట్రాలకి ఆయా రాష్ట్రాల్లో ఉన్న పరిపాలన, ఇతర అవసరాల దృష్ట్యా కేటాయింపులు సక్రమంగా జరగాలని ఆశించాలి. విశ్వవిద్యాలయాల బాధ్యతగా దేశంలో జరిగే ఏ అంశాన్నైనా సరే ఆ అంశం మీద వక్ర మార్గం ఉంటే, అది ప్రభుత్వాలు కావచ్చు, పార్టీలు కావచ్చు, సమాజంలో ఉండే ఒక వర్గం కావచ్చు, ఒక గ్రూప్ కావచ్చు, ఎవరైనా కావచ్చు, విశ్వవిద్యాలయాలు వాటి మీద చర్చించి ఒక దిశానిర్దేశం చేయాల్సినటువంటి నైతిక, సామాజిక బాధ్యత ఉంది. కాబట్టి మనం ఈ విషయం మీద కూడా కులంకషంగా ఈ 2 రోజులు చర్చించి వివరాలని కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వానికి కూడా అవసరమైతే పంపించాలనేసి కోరుకుంటున్నా. భిన్నత్వంలో ఏకత్వం అనే దేశాన్ని అంటున్నాం కాబట్టి ఆ ఏకత్వాన్ని రుజుమార్గంలో సాగించేటట్టుగా కేంద్ర రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు చర్యలు తీసుకోవాలని కోరుకుంటూ ఈ అవకాశం ఇచ్చినందుకు ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాను.
థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్. ఇది కొనసాగింపుగా ముఖ్యమంత్రులు కొనసాగింపు కాదు, ఇది మనమే చాలా ముందు కృష్ణారెడ్డి గారు ఒక 2 నెలల ముందు మేము దీన్ని ప్లాన్ చేసినాం. మనకు కొనసాగింపుగా వాళ్ళు మీటింగ్ పెట్టుకున్నారంటే ఐ విల్ వెరీ హ్యాపీ. బికాస్ యూనివర్సిటీస్ డిజైన్ దేర్ ఓన్ ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ accordingly. Really, the society also responds. That is a great honor to us. But this university is committed, as I told you earlier, this university is committed to open up this kind of space for such kind of vibrant discussions, debates, which are influencing our country and society. I think next coming days also, we are going to hire this kind of seminar on delimitation of constituencies. If my brother gives, extends support to us financially, we'll invite all South Indian, of course, in Bengal and Punjab and Kashmir and other parts also to share the dais and discuss that issue, because it is going to be very serious kind of debate and serious kind of issue in coming future. And also, we are planning to have a language issue and federalism and language nationalism in this country. And this series will continue. I think, in coming 6 months, probably in the next 6 months, we are holding such kind of discussions in this university. This is open university, as I always say, it's open to ideas and open to discussions and open to offer solutions also. Yeah, with this, now I think I request, I'm sorry, I missed earlier, Academic Director to take over. Now, we felicitate our guests. Next 1 hour is going to be very stimulating and very vibrant, because to my left, Pinaki ji is there, and also to my right, Arvind is there. They are going to engage you for next 1 hour or so. On behalf of university, because I have to attend a meeting immediately along with Balkrishna Reddy Garu, I take leave from you. And before going, it is my responsibility as Vice Chancellor to honor our guests. After felicitation, immediately, I think the first lecture will be from Professor. Now, Krishna Reddy Garu. కొంచెం అర్జెంట్ ఉండడం వల్ల మేము వెళ్తున్నాం. పుష్ప చక్రపతి గారు, she will take over and she will run the proceeding. Dean Faculty of Sciences will sum up later, but you chair this session. Okay. This is also a federal symbol. This is from Pochampalli of Telangana. It is not from Gujarat. Yeah. And terminal also is federal symbol. Okay. Thank you. I request Professor Pinaki Chakrabarti to deliver his chief guest address. Before that, I invite Sunil to give brief introduction about Professor Pinaki.
Thank you, sir. Once again, greetings to all of you. Today's chief guest, is Professor Pinaki Chakrabarti, is a distinguished professor at the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, and the Vice Chairman of the Institute of Development Studies at Jaipur. Prior to this, he was the Director and Professor, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy at New Delhi, and Economic Advisor to the 14th Finance Commission of India. He served as a member, Advisory Council to the 15th Finance Commission of India, Member Secretary, Committee on Fiscal Statistics appointed by the National Statistical Commission, Chairman, Kerala Public Expenditure Review Committee, it's appointed by the Government of Kerala, and Research Associate at Levy Economics Institute, New York. Professor Chakrabarti sir also served as a member of the Third Union Territory Finance Commission, appointed by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and as a consultant to the 11th Finance Commission of India. He was the Chief of Social Policy at UNICEF and the Chief of Field Office at UNICEF Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Professor Chakrabarti has held short-term visiting positions in the Department of Economics at the University of Ottawa, the University of Carleton, the Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum, and also taught the Indian Public Finance module at the Indira Gandhi Institute for Development Research, Mumbai. He testified before the Select Committee of the Upper House of India's Parliament in June 2015 on the Constitution of Amendment Bill on GST. His book titled GST in India, a Simple Tax in a Complex Federal System was published by the Orient Baxfan in 2019. He has also researched widely on the decentralization and development of states in India. Professor has co-authorized two books titled State Level Reforms, Growth and Development in India States, published by the Oxford University Press in New York in 2014, and Social Sector in Decentralized Economy, India in the Era of Globalization, published by Cambridge University Press. He has regularly publishes in various national and international journals. He has an MPhil in Applied Economics and a PhD in Economics from the Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum. Thank you very much, sir. Please welcome.
Thank you. I request Pinaki ji to address and of course deliver his conference address. I request Pushpa Chakrabarti to take over.
Thank you, Professor Chakrabarti, Professor Chakrabarti, Professor Balakrishna Reddy, Professor L.B.K. Reddy, Professor Pushpa Chakrabarti, Mr. Arvind Wadia, Professor V. Srivastava. Thank you. Dr. K. Krishna Reddy, and other distinguished participants of the dais. I am delighted to be here. I thank the university for this kind invitation. And I have been asked to speak on India's federalism and the recent issues that we have been deliberating in India on union-state fiscal relations. So I thought it would be good to discuss the issues before the 16th Finance Commission. The commission is currently in office and visiting states in the context of post-COVID changes and developments in fiscal management. What are the key issues that the 16th Finance Commission probably need to consider would be the main theme of my discussion. lecture today. And I also would like to talk about on the issue of fiscal equalization, revenue sharing, and the broader issue of center-state relations as evolving. So let me start. The 16th Finance Commission has been constituted by the President of India on 31st December 2023. Currently, the award of the 15th Finance Commission is in operation. As you all know, Finance Commission is a temporary body. It comes, gives its award. The award remains valid for 5 years, then the new commission comes. Given the so the 15th award is in operation. Now the 16th Finance Commission award will become operational after the 15th award is over. So given the overall resources and the existing structure of fiscal relations, it is always a fine balance that the Finance Commission has to achieve between the need and availability of resources at both the union and the state level. Though there is no specific rule for such a mechanism, it is the objective assessment of resource need of both the union and states that determine what is required to be transferred to the states and what should remain with the union. Successive finance commissions have done this job admirably by strengthening the framework for fiscal stability and at the same time bringing in important fiscal reforms in the country. If we take the very recent history, the framework of rule-based fiscal control at the state level was brought by the 12th Finance Commission. The FC 13 further strengthened the framework of fiscal prudence initiated by FC 12. FC 14 increased the tax devolution to 42% to give greater fiscal autonomy to the states. FC 15 had to work in the middle of COVID, and 15th FC also suggested critically important framework for fiscal stability and availability of resources to the states, maintaining the vertical imbalance at 41% of the divisible pool of taxes. To address the issue of horizontal inequality, and we have been discussing about horizontal inequality since morning about North and South. To address the issue of horizontal inequality, successive finance commissions have made the state-wise gap in resources by adopting a progressive devolution of taxes and provisioning of grants. States at the bottom ladder of the per capita income, as we mentioned about the northern states, thus receive, because it is progressive, thus receive larger share of transfers compared to high per capita income states like the southern states. Key issues that the FC 16 needs to consider are discussed below. The first issue is the growth and uncertainty. I think what is most important in the present context is to talk about the global uncertainty in which the whole economy is functioning now. The GDP estimate for the base year and its forecast for the award period of the Finance Commission, in this case, the period from 2026-27 to 2030-31, would work as a control variable in the assessment of revenue and expenditure. So we must have a realistic assessment of what would be the growth rate for the period from 2026 to 2030-31. And Finance Commission will have to make that projection. Given the uncertainty that we have now, there are 2 wars going on. There has been a lot of discussions about tariff and non-tariff barriers by the Trump administration, and there is a disruption in global trade. So Finance Commission is facing, in a macroeconomic sense, a very uncertain economic environment. An optimistic GDP projection can overestimate revenue and underestimate expenditure need because we think that we are more rich We'll be richer by the next 5 years. Our growth is going to be very prosperous. So in that case, our revenue will be more and expenditure need will be less. So we can always do an optimistic growth projection, and that can itself reduce transfers. So we need a realistic assessment of growth. That's the first point that Finance Commission will have to consider before we talk about its sharing between the union and states among the states. I think that's the first point that Finance Commission has to consider. Though India has seen a significant post-COVID economic recovery, making a medium-term growth forecast by the Finance Commission needs to factor in various uncertainties and macro challenges that we have just now discussed. Now, is this the first time that the Finance Commission is facing such an uncertainty? No. Approaches adopted by the past Finance Commission in estimating growth may be worth highlighting here. For the assessment of revenue and expenditure need, the 14th Finance Commission assumed a constant GDP growth rate. But when it came to 13th Finance Commission, since there are large-scale global uncertainties due to the global financial crisis during 2008-9, when the 13th Finance Commission was there in office, they actually assumed a year-wise growth rate. So they are not sure whether for the 5-year period, a particular growth rate would be the right thing to do. Similar things were done by the 15th Finance Commission. So appropriate assessment of fiscal resources for individual states also then become very important. And I just wanted to highlight here that we were in Hyderabad today, and if we talk about the southern economies, including Hyderabad, I think these economies are also globally more integrated than some of the economies that we have in the north and east. So there is high export earning. The people are moving to different countries on a daily basis, and so the global exposure of local GDP is very high in developed states compared to the poorer states. So in that case, the impact of uncertainty will be felt more in poorer states compared to the richer states. So that's a challenge that we need to discuss, debate, and understand. That is one. Second issue is that when we talk about the poorer states also depend on high central transfers. So if the overall growth, so if we look at Bihar or UP or Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, the dependence of central transfer, its share in total revenue is around 50% of the total revenue. So in that case, if the central revenue falls, these states will be affected more compared to the richer states. So the job of the Finance Commission will not be easy because in one place, the states which are highly exposed to the global economic environment can face uncertainty-related decline in growth. I'm not that's going to happen, but there's a possibility. And poorer states, because the central revenues may not be as optimistic as one thinks, then they can get affected because they depend more on central transfer. So the issue is extremely complex. So in that context, let us look at the issue of vertical fiscal imbalance. The complex transfer system as evolved during the Planning Commission era. Finance Commission started devolving resources to cover non-planned revenue expenditure of states. So there was earlier, when there was a Planning Commission, there was planned expenditure, there was non-planned expenditure. While the planned financing was financed by planned transfers from the erstwhile Planning Commission, Finance Commission started financing non-planned revenue expenditure of states. Since the share of devolution, there has been a lot of discussion about vertical, that 42% is a big amount of money that has been given to the states. But since the share of devolution proposed by 14th Finance Commission and by the 15th Finance Commission covered both planned and non-planned revenue expenditure, their awards are not strictly comparable with the award of the FC12, FC13, or for that matter, FC11. So in that context, the 42% was supposed to cover both planned and non-planned revenue expenditure. So from that point of view, this award is not a bonanza, but to cover large part of planned revenue expenditure, because planned non-planned distinction has been eliminated. Secondly, the divisible pool of taxes comprises of gross tax collection, net of cess, surcharges, and cost of collection. over the years, the share of divisible pool and the total tax of the pool of taxes in total union revenue is declining because of the increase in cess and surcharges. You must have read on a daily basis in newspaper, the center is increasing cess and surcharges and it is not shared with the states. The reason is cess and surcharges as per the constitutions are not, as per the Constitution of India, is not shareable. So as they are not shareable with the states, proliferation of cess and surcharges have actually reduced divisible pool. So from that point of view, this 42% actually was not a major increase as far as vertical devolution is concerned, and it further got reduced because of the increase in cess and surcharges. It is good to note in 2025-26 budget, there has been some rationalization of cess and surcharges, and there is some consolidation of cess and surcharges that should increase the divisible pool. So that's something that is important to know. Second issue that I wanted to highlight is the review of FRBM. Now, fiscal responsibility, the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed both the union and state debt to a much higher level compared to the pre-COVID situation. Pre-COVID, India's debt to GDP ratio was 74% of GDP. Today, our debt to GDP ratio is more than 80% of GDP. During COVID, it was more than 90% of GDP. So, but our FRBM Act of the Union government says that the debt to GDP ratio should be brought down to 60% of GDP by 22-23. So we have already crossed that year, and we are at a debt to GDP ratio which is 82% of GDP. So certainly we cannot achieve 60% in the next 2 or 3 years. So it is very important to analyze these developments in terms of elevated debt to GDP ratio and suggest a framework for reduction. So when we talk about morning, there was a discussion, Professor V. Balakrishna Reddy talked about COVIDization. I think COVID has created a new normal in terms of fiscal management also, because globally there is a high level of debt. In India also the level of debt is very high. So we need to have a realistic assessment of how much is required and how much adjustment is possible in the short run fiscal adjustment, and what should be the targeted debt to GDP ratio by the end of 2030-31, the last year of the 16th Finance Commission's award. So there is a need to review the way our FRBM, fiscal responsibility and budget management, is working now, and suggest a framework for consolidation which is achievable rather than talking about a 3% fiscal deficit target. So I think we need to really talk about the general government debt to GDP ratio. Then there is a lot of discussion about off-budget liabilities of the states. Off-budget borrowing are part of the public sector borrowing requirement. That means in one place the government borrows, and then there are public sector entities borrows. You must have seen a lot of discussion about debt of discoms and power sector companies, which is being taken over by the government time to time. The latest was the Uday scheme, where government of the states actually took over a large part of the debt. And power sector debt is now 11 lakh crore. And this 11 lakh crore is outside the budget because it is not a budgetary liability yet, because it is in the books of the accounts of the discoms. So in other words, there are a lot of off-budget liabilities that are still there, which can actually impose a major fiscal risk if the guarantees or government are invoked or government actually takes over these debts. So in a way, I think it is also very important to really think about what is the level of off-budget liabilities, how do you reduce that off-budget liabilities in the medium terms. So that fiscal risk, which is outside the budget but can create major fiscal stress, need to be accounted for, analyzed, and a path for correction needs to be introduced. If we do not do that, I think those fiscal risks can really reduce fiscal space and can reduce expenditure on health, education, and development that the state governments are required to do. So that is the third issue that we need to talk about. Fourth issue is the revenue versus capital expenditure equalization. When we talk about Finance Commission transfer, we always forget the fact that Finance Commission does not give any transfer for capital expenditure. When the planning commission was there, plan transfers used to finance a part of the capital expenditure because it was part of the plan investment. But now that finance commission is restricted only to revenue expenditure equalization, whatever capital expenditure will have to be done by a state is dependent on how much money a state government can borrow. And now if we look at capital expenditure in the context of this abolition of the planning commission, the capital expenditure is a residual expenditure determined by the borrowing limit prescribed under the FRBM Act. So unless a state generates revenue surplus, capital expenditure is always the government capital expenditure is always a residual. So if we are really talking about large capital expenditure, addressing inequality in fiscal capacity across states cannot be just done by revenue expenditure equalization. And that's very important. When we talk about transfers, we are actually talking about revenue expenditure equalization. If we see huge disparity between North and South, one of the reasons is access to capital. And access to capital in the northern region is much lower than the southern region. So because the 3% of GDP is a much higher number, of course, one has to service this debt. But the point here is that finance commission transfer is restricted only to revenue expenditure. So revenue expenditure and capital investment needs are two different issues. So if we look at the budget in an aggregate sense, I think a more nuanced, more balanced approach will be necessary. Conditional versus unconditional grants. In the past, several finance commissions had provided conditional grants to states. Tax devolution constitutes more than 70% of the transfers. Given the quantum, the ability of the Finance Commission conditional grants have very limited ability. Now, if we say the states are spending 90% of the health expenditure, or 70%, 80% of the education expenditure, central government is spending around 17-18% of the health and education expenditure. So if the Finance Commission grant is just 2% of the total expenditure, that grant is not going to change state level behavior because it's a very small amount of money. So that is why 14th Finance Commission gave no conditional grants to the states. They gave fiscal autonomy to the states by increasing the vertical devolution to 42%. So the Finance Commission's grants ability, not tax devolution. Tax devolution is a huge amount. It's 42% of the total taxes collected by the union net of cess and surcharges and cost of collection. The conditional grants that the Finance Commission gives is a very small amount, and it really cannot change states' behavior. So in other words, it is prudent for the Finance Commission to provide unconditional transfers to the states. Let the states decide what is most appropriate for them. As far as national priorities are concerned, if center thinks there are 5 national priorities where center would intervene, that can be done through the centrally sponsored scheme in discussion with the states. So Finance Commission changing states' fiscal behavior is just not feasible given the amount of money involved as conditional grants. Now, transfer and equalization. Finally, the horizontal equity issue in India have seen equity versus efficiency debate among the states. There are 2 aspects to horizontal distribution of resources. One is provisioning of comparable levels of public services at comparable levels of taxation and create fiscal space for states to enable them to perform their constitutionally defined expenditure functions. However, the Finance Commission approach has always been to ensure a progressive distribution so that poorer states are able to provide minimum levels of public services. The share of southern states in the horizontal distribution has declined primarily due to the increase in their per capita income. If we look at for the last 50 years, because per capita income gets very high share in the Finance Commission's devolution formula, given that the per capita income ranking of the southern states have increased, their share in the total devolution has declined. One of the ways to increase the share of southern states would be to reduce the weightage of income distance in the devolution formula. That's the simplest way to do it. So you just reduce the distance. However, this should have an adverse impact on progressivity. Also, some of the southern states have received large revenue deficit grants. So when we give revenue deficit grant after tax devolution, that is also unconditional money. So when we talk about just decline in untied transfers, we also have to take into consideration the revenue deficit grant that the states got. And two southern states who have got significant amount of revenue deficit grant in the last 10 years is Kerala and Andhra Pradesh. Of course, not Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Telangana. So if we look at the per capita income distance, it has actually reduced for some of the sounds very sharply. For example, Kerala's per capita income ranking has gone up sharply in the last 20 years. Same thing has happened with Tamil Nadu. Same thing has happened with Karnataka. The way we make transfers, where income distance get a very large share, now it is 45%. 45%. So if through that method of income distance, if through the same method we are going to make devolution, the share of, I don't see southern state share going up. So unless there is a change in the way Finance Commission make transfers, this process is going to continue. So there is this issue of progressivity versus a threshold level of transfer. So I don't know. I don't have a solution, but a lot of people are also talking about ensure a minimum level of transfers. Some people are talking about give it on the basis of per capita population shares, so that then there is discussion about 2011 versus 1971 population. So these are important, complex issues, and it is also very important to understand that if we are actually giving transfers which is neutral, that means I don't make a distinction between a person whose fiscal need is very different than the fiscal need of a person in another state, that person would migrate. So there will be footloose migration. So if somebody, and I always give this example whenever I take class on federalism as a teacher, I always tell that if a person is sick and he is coming to Chennai for treatment, this is under extreme duress that he is traveling. Otherwise, you won't travel. So in other words, it is important to ensure. So if a person is traveling under duress for his health needs, and if that person does not have the job or the quality education, he or she would certainly move from a jurisdiction which has got under provisioning to a jurisdiction which has got appropriate provisioning. Now, if we make transfer completely inequitable, that also can adversely impact in the long run the overall process of development. So balanced regional development vis-a-vis equalization and efficiency are very complex issues, and from that point of view, we really need to look at transfer system. That is the third or fourth thing. Last issue is on the question of collection. I think there has been a lot of discussion going on collection as a source of that should be used as a criteria. Now, I just wanted to highlight the fact that from the first Finance Commission to the 10th Finance Commission, collection was given an weightage. And that time there was only income tax and union excise that used to be devolved. And for the purpose of devolution of income tax, collection by the 9th Finance Commission, the last Finance Commission which used collection, gave 10% weightage. In other words, the income tax originated in state X got 10% of that collection as a part of the devolution. But 10th Finance Commission had said that in an interconnected country, a post-globalized, post-economic reform, there is nothing called locally originating income. So, for example, if a big corporate house has business all over the country, files return in Bombay or in Hyderabad or in Bangalore, the income is counted there. So the concept of locally originating income has gone because of the interconnectedness, more integration of the country and the economy. So in that, and that is why the collection criteria was dropped. So collection criteria was dropped. So reintroduction of collection criteria will also bring an element of regressivity in the transfer system. These are complex issues. But a balanced view on this is absolutely necessary. To finally, I would like to also say that going forward, by 2050, India will be more urban. 53% of Indian people will live in cities, not in rural areas. We still believe that India is rural. India is still lives in villages. I think that has phenomenally changed. India, a large part of Indian population still live in villages, but the way people are migrating to cities is phenomenal. So migration to cities is going to be an extra fiscal burden or expenditure need for prosperous region. So how do you deal with their expenditure need, specific needs? I think there's a nuance, a more futuristic view is necessary, and resources be provided for. I think that's very important, and that can be done through a mechanism of grant, because instead of devolution formula, a grant for urbanization, a grant for migration, a grant for provisioning of services for urban development will be very important. Third, important issue, and most important issue will be, we have been talking about climate financing, because climate is becoming a major issue, and there has been Dr. V. Krishna Reddy was talking about India's WTO commitment and how it impacted states. I think India's climate commitment also will have an impact on states, because India will have to make an energy transition policy towards more renewable energy and climate resilient expenditure. In such cases, what will be the additional expenditure requirement for the states will have to be worked out, and that money to be provided for. So these are some of the issues that's going to come forward as we move. To conclude, the vertical fiscal imbalance in the Indian Union is high due to the asymmetric assignment of revenue sources to the union and states. States in India together spend 62% of the government expenditure, while the revenue collected by the states are only 37%. The union government collects 62.7% of the total taxes. As observed by the FC15, this structural vertical fiscal imbalance necessitates orderly transfer of resources from the union to the states. The constitutional role of the FC16 is also to assess this vertical gap and recommend transfer of resources to the states. It is critical that this role is performed in the spirit of continuity and stability of fiscal resource flows to the states. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, thank you so much for a thought-provoking lecture. Your speech on fiscal equalization, revenue sharing, and state and central relations gave us many questions before us to discuss and debate on these 2 days. And the challenges such as vertical and horizontal imbalances, as well as the need for long-term revenue generations at both the level of government remains critical issues in the union-state fiscal relationship, is also an important issue to be discussed and debate in this national conference. And also talked about the GST councils and cooperative federalism, which is also crucial for unlocking India's potential and need to be discussed. So at this juncture, states needs to be collaborate with the union government to promote growth and also adapting to the technological advancement and global challenges. Thank you very much, sir, for the inspiring speech. And now I request Dr. Sunil Kumar Potana to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, Arvind Warrior.
You can make it less. I can directly get it.
Once again, good afternoon to all of you. Today's keynote speaker of the inaugural session is Arvind Warrior. Sri Arvind Warrior is a faculty and a life member of the Indian Society for the Technical Education. He investigates the Indian state finances and is passionate about analyzing the development of states through infographics. Arvind worked in many engineering colleges in India. He has a Bachelor of Technology in Electronics and Communication Engineering and Master of Technology in Embedded Systems. His areas of interest are emerging technologies and cooperative federalism in India. Sri Arvind is a problem solver and a computer science enthusiast who likes solving real world problems with the aid of machine learning and deep learning. Please welcome, sir, for the keynote speech.
Slide again. Slide. Okay. Oh, good. Yeah.
సారీ
ఇక్కడ పెట్టారు అవును సార్ అవును సార్ అంటే ఫోల్డర్ just I want this thing to come. Focus it on that. Okay. As a direct one. I want this to come. I'll be using this. This should come.
Details from lab post comparison.
What is it? Okay. Thank you, distinguished guest and the audience. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me to this important conference. Fiscal Federalism, Devolution, Development and Economic Dynamics. I won't take much time into the introduction part. I'll get straight to the point. So, why are we discussing this? That is very important. It's very important that we discuss it. Because, you see, basically, we need to know what is federalism in the first place. Federalism, as a general definition, is you have a system, it's allocation of resources for equitable and efficient distribution to the states. But unfortunately, we have failed in it because we are conducting this seminar because we have failed in it. So this session will be discussing the critical points related to it, and also we'll try to find solutions. So I'll be dividing this conference into three parts. One is, what are the problems with fiscal federalism in India? Then why fiscal federalism is failing in India? And how should India address the problems in fiscal federalism? I'll be discussing the three parts, and I'll be discussing why each point. Why are we? So first thing is, what are the problems with fiscal federalism? To begin with, I will share one infographic that I created using research. Just check this. How is it? Okay, so I should be fine. So you see this, in this two graphics I've created, infographics. So I'll explain this infographics so that you will understand the problem. So what is this first thing? What are the problems with fiscal federalism in India? You see the left side infographic. What does it say? It says percentage of union taxes received by Andhra Pradesh, including Telangana, and Madhya Pradesh, including Chhattisgarh, for the financial year 1957-58 and financial year 23-24. Now you see what exactly is. Generally, union government takes to collect the taxes, the direct taxes especially, and some part of the indirect taxes. So from the divisible pool, they divide it. So that is, see, out of 100, 42 is divided to the states. That is called as vertical devolution. And out of that 42, presently we are dividing 40, means the union government is giving 42. So out of 42, you share it to different states. That is called as horizontal devolution. Now, what this infographic says is that in financial year 1957-58, Andhra Pradesh included, undivided Andhra Pradesh used to get 8.34 rupees out of 100. That means this 8.34 refers to the horizontal devolution. And Madhya Pradesh, including Chhattisgarh, used to get 6.8 rupees. So it is 6.8% at the. Now, what has happened in 66 years, you can see, in 23-24 financial year, Andhra Pradesh, including Telangana, is getting 6.14% out of 100. That means 6.14 rupees out of 100. And in financial year 23-24, what are you seeing? Madhya Pradesh, including Chhattisgarh, is getting 11 rupees. The same is applicable to the right side graph. What was Tamil Nadu getting? Tamil Nadu used to get 8.2 rupees out of 100 in 57-58. And Uttar Pradesh used to get 16.36 rupees in 57-58 financial year. And what has happened in the 66 years? You can clearly see the Tamil Nadu's money has reduced to 4.07%. Okay. And what has happened to the Uttar Pradesh? It has increased to 19.05%. Don't you see an ambiguity here? There's a deviation. Okay. Now we all know that the southern states are comparatively developed compared to the northern states. But you see the movement of transfer. So what we can understand from this basic graph to understand the problem of federalism is the money is slowly going and the development. So we are developing despite lack of resources. And when you see the other states, northern states, they're unable to develop despite getting huge amount of revenue. So this is the first thing I would like to tell you with respect to the problem. So what is the question? What is the problem with fiscal federalism? The problem with fiscal federalism is that the money. See, the main problem is if you perform, you are penalized. If you perform, you are penalized. That is the basics of fiscal federalism. That is the biggest problem because this infographic itself is sufficient to tell what is the biggest problem. Now, let me tell you one more interesting next graph. So I have created for Kerala and Bihar. You see what's going on. In Kerala, in 57-58, what has happened? It is 3.61 rupees they used to get. And in 57-58, what has happened? They used to get 9.66 rupees. Okay, that is 57. And what has happened in the 66 years? You can see Kerala is getting 1.2% and Bihar is getting 13. Bihar, including Jharkhand, is getting 13.36%. So you see that? Now, when you take any records, if you take Sustainable Development Goal indicates, it's very clear that Kerala is at number 1 and Bihar is at the bottom. So the question that we need to ask is, what are they doing with the money? They're not, see, the question is, what are they doing with the money? So initially in 66 years back, Kerala used to get, and as you see, progressively, it has reduced. And what has happened here? Don't you see this difference? This is the problem with fiscal federalism in India. So the finance commissions I'll get into the problems exactly. So I want to tell you what is the problem with fiscal. This is a fundamental problem with fiscal federalism in India. Now I'll tell you what is next infographic. I'll tell you what happened. Now this is with respect to Karnataka. You see Karnataka and Rajasthan. Karnataka used to get 5.3% out of 100. Like let's say I have 100 rupees. Karnataka used to get 5.3 rupees in 57-58 financial year. And Rajasthan used to get 4.25 rupees in financial year 1957-58. And what has happened in 23-24? You can see it has reduced to 3.64. And in 23-24, Rajasthan is getting 6.02. We all know that any indicator you take, it's very clear that Rajasthan's economic development is very less compared to Karnataka. Now, again, the question is, what did they do with the money? Are you getting it? This is the fundamental problem with fiscal federalism in India. So now we'll say, the next question we need to ask is, why is fiscal federalism failing in India? I'll get to that. Anyway, next graph is very, very important. Now, I have shown two graphs, right? Now, in this graph, I am talking about percentage points gained by some Hindi states, especially the Hindi states referring to as Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, and Bihar. So from 1957 to 23-24, what has happened? The the Karnataka's share has reduced by minus 1.66%. If you take these two financial years into consideration, it has reduced by 1.66%. When I say 1.66%, it's a huge amount of money. I'll tell you the correct numbers for you, what exactly this amount turns out to be. Now you can clearly see Rajasthan in the 66 years, their share out of 100 has increased by 1.77%. And Uttar Pradesh, it has increased by 2.69%. And Andhra Pradesh, including Telangana, it has reduced by 2.2%. And I'll tell you one thing, very interesting thing. When you say 2.2%, the amount of money is huge. I'll tell you the correct numbers exactly. Now, you might have got a basic idea about the problem with fiscal federalism in India. It's basically, fiscal federalism is all about penalizing the states that perform well. We all know that South Indian states have performed pretty well, and we are being penalized. Okay. Now, the next infographic is very important. This is very interesting. Now, in this infographic, I did a little bit analysis. What I'm doing, so you see the left side graph. The left side infographic is all about. So what I've done is money received by a state. So this is the share in the union taxes. I relative to the percentage of the respective own tax revenue. You just see 72-73 financial year. What has happened? Like, let's see, you can have, like, I'll take Karnataka. Karnataka used to get 40.3%. This 40.3% is basically, let's say, the Karnataka state-owned tax revenue is 100. How much did Karnataka receive? 40 rupees. Okay. In the same way, Tamil Nadu in 1972-73 financial year, let's say the state-owned tax revenue of Tamil Nadu is 100. How much did Tamil Nadu receive? 35 rupees. Let's see what's going on in the northern side. In financial year 72-73, you see, let's say own tax revenue of Uttar Pradesh is 100. And what is the money that Uttar Pradesh is receiving? 99. This clearly proves they were receiving money even in 72-73 financial year. Are you getting it? So we were penalized even in 72-73. And you see the next graph. Next graph is for the financial year 22-23. Now let's see how much Telangana is getting. That means for 100 rupees, if the state-owned tax revenue, see, state-owned tax revenue comprises of stamps and registration, GST, and electricity, all those stuff, you get that in the state-owned tax revenue. Now, if Telangana in 22-23, Telangana collected 100 rupees, how much did Telangana get from the union government in the form of share in the union taxes? 18. And you see what's going on in Bihar? 216. That means in 22-23 financial year, Bihar collected own tax revenue is 100. How much did they get from the 216? You need to ask from where is this 216 coming from? This 216, see, union government doesn't have a money plan to create a money, right? So from where does the money come from? It is taken from the southern states. And finally, it is taken there, they're redistributing. Now, the question is, when you're redistributing, is the development really taking place? No, I will say no. There are many indicators to prove it. Now you might have got a basic idea of the problem with fiscal federalism. The problems with fiscal federalism in India. Now, the next point is, why is fiscal federalism failing in India? See, when there is a problem, why is it failing? Let's get into the formula of the devolution. Now, there are two interesting points. I'll tell you that. Now, next one is key. You might have all heard this Gargill formula. What is Gargill formula? I've seen some newspapers quoting Gargill formula is related to Finance Commission and all that. That's absolutely wrong. Gargill formula is basically a part of the Planning Commission, how they devolve, how they give union governments assistance to the states. Now, Gargill was a social scientist, so he designed a formula. So what is the criteria he's using to devolve? So let's say a union government wants to give, like union government collects 100 rupees, they want to give it to the states as union government assistance. So you need to create a very important point. Union government assistance is different from the Finance Commission's devolution. I'll get back to that. Now you see here, key features of Gargill's formula 1969 used by Planning Commission for union government's assistance states. You see that criteria population, it's 60%, per capita income 10%, tax efforts, ongoing. In our discussion, I am going to focus on this population and per capita income because I personally believe, and I'm with conviction, I can say that we are failing. The fiscal federalism is failing in India because our population, the criteria used by the Finance Commission and the Planning Commission have been really miserable. Because the stats clearly show that they have failed to do that. See, why did Indian Constitution create a Finance Commission using Article 280 of the Constitution? Because they want to create an equitable development of the country. But that has not happened here. Because the data clearly shows that has not happened here. So why it is happening is something we need to get into it. Now, I will be focusing in this discussion population and per capita income, because these two criteria is responsible for why we are failing as a fiscal federalism in India. Now, we'll get into that. Now, you see this Gartgill formula. So what does it mean? 60% population. That means if you allot 60% for population, that means the more populous state will get more money. Less population, get less state. Now, it's a very interesting thing here. When more population, what does it mean? That means if you don't implement planning, if you don't implement family planning properly, you are awarded. If you don't implement planning, the family planning properly, you are awarded. That's the same thing, because they are only looking at the population size. They are not looking whether the state is working out to reduce the population or not. See, you see the formula. They are all static indicators, population, per capita income. They are not looking, this Gartgill formula or the Gartgill-Mukherjee formula is least bothered about looking at the performance of the state in reducing the population. You can see this. This is the key features of Gartgill formula in 1969 used by the Planning Commission for Central Assistance. The next one, key feature of Gartgill. So when Pranab Mukherjee came in 1991, he revised the formula. I call it, it's like the old wine in the new bottle. I don't see any particular change there. You can again see population 60%, per capita 25%. Are you seeing it? So the problem is around 70 to 80% of the money that should be transferred to states is based on population and per capita income. These indicators are static. I'll tell you why they're static, because they're not evaluating the performance of the state in reducing the population or increasing the per capita income. See, what it says is, it clearly says, okay, you are having a population. If you increase the population, we'll give you more money. Does the Planning Commission or the Finance Commission ever bothered to think about it? How to reduce the population? No, they never did. Because you can clearly see this. The moment you give 60%, 25% or 70 to 80%, you're giving weightage to this population per capita income, it's very clear you're bound to fail. And we have been failing for this same reason. I'll show you some more stats how this is failing. The next one is Finance Commission. See, Finance Commission and Planning Commission are two different bodies. Planning Commission is not a part of the constitutional body, but Finance Commission is a constitutional body under Article 280 of the Constitution. Now you see the criteria used by the 14th and 15th Finance Commission. Here too, income distance. See, income distance is basically per capita income. See, income distance, actually, to put it in layman terms, income distance is the per capita income distance between a state with the highest per capita income and the lowest per capita income. So again, per capita income is also deals with income distance also deals with per capita income. So what is the percentage of the 14th Finance Commission? It is 50%. And what is the criteria for 2026, 2026 15th Finance Commission? It is also 45%. See, if you take population and income distance into consideration, again it's around 60%. Don't you see that? You can see this. If you see income distance 50%, here it is 45%. Let's add income distance plus population. In the 14th Finance Commission, it was around 67%. And in 15th Finance Commission, it turns out to be 60%. So you see, in all the two cases, minimum weightage is given to population and per capita income around 60 to 70%. So are the planning commissions thinking whether they have reduced the population or increased the population? No. So it clearly says, the criteria clearly says to us that if you have more population, you will get more money. And interestingly, we need to take a note here. 15th Finance Commission, as per the terms of reference of 15th Finance Commission, previously the 13th, 14th and the 10th, 12th, they all used to take this 1971 census for their reference population. But when the union government, they constituted the 15th Finance Commission, what they did is, in the terms of reference, they asked the Finance Commission to take population on the basis of the 2011 census. You can see that. Here population, 14th Finance Commission took 1971 census, but what has happened? 15%. Now we know that the population has increased drastically in the northern states, and because we implemented the family planning properly in the southern states, and those states failed to implement the family planning properly. So what has happened? So automatically, when you take the 2011 census, it's obvious that the population will be high there. So you can see this formula. Around 60% you're giving to population and per capita income together, what does it mean? That means you are penalizing the performing states and you're rewarding the states that fail to control the population. Because that data clearly shows. Now I'll tell you one more thing. Now you may think, what is this 1% will make a big difference? Next infographic will tell you the real problem. Now this is a very interesting, this is a very important infographic. What it says is, I'll tell you some very interesting thing. Karnataka's share in the union taxes reduced by minus 1.6% around, Kerala by minus 0.5%, Telangana by minus 0.3%, Andhra by minus 0.3%. You can get the correct value. But what I would like to say is that a decrease in 1% can decrease the revenue by a lot. You see, collectively, let's take an example. In 24-25, if the southern states, if 15 Finance Commission horizontal devolution formula, the percentages were same as the 14 Finance Commission. I repeat, if the horizontal devolution formula of the 15 Finance Commission was similar to the 14 Finance Commission, we would have not lost 31,000 crores. I have the maths, I have done the calculations. And similarly, what has happened is, you can see the Hindi states, they have increased by 12,000 crores. The meanwhile, you can check the Maharashtra and Gujarat as well. Gujarat gained. See, I'm talking about a single year. See, this is a very important point. These two infographics are very important because in the financial year 24-25, just one financial year, the 5 southern states are losing how much rupees? 31,004 crores, 31,492 crores in the overall union share in the union taxes. Are you getting it? And what has happened with Indian states? They have gained. So why did we lose? We lost because 15th Finance Commission changed the devolution criteria. That means this infographic talks about what would have happened if 15th Finance Commission followed the 14th Finance Commission formula without any change. But we all know that unfortunately they changed it and we are losing money. I'm talking about only one financial year. From 20 to 26, we are losing, the southern states combined, 5 states are losing around 1 lakh crore rupees. I have done the math, but for the presentation purpose, I have taken only one financial year for the purpose of explanation. You can clearly see this. Maharashtra is also gaining. Okay, now go to the next part. Now this is very interesting. As we have seen in Gadgil-Mukherjee formula or the Finance Commission, what are they using? They're using per capita income. Now you see this. This is very important. The per capita net state domestic product constant prices during the financial year 1980-1981. Now you see this. This is very important. What was the per capita income of Uttar Pradesh? It was 1278 rupees, right? And Tamil Nadu, it was 1498. Now, if you take the ratio of per capita income of Tamil Nadu by Uttar Pradesh, it's around 1.17. If you divide the per capita income of Tamil Nadu by Uttar Pradesh, what is the value you get? I've done the math here. It is 1.17. Now let's go to the right side graph. It's the same thing. After 41 years, what has happened in the financial year 21-22? If you take the per capita income of Tamil Nadu divided by the per capita income of Uttar Pradesh, what do you get? It has turned to be 3.35. Don't you see the deviation? See, we need to understand an important point here. What does the Finance Commission take as a criteria for devolution of the funds? Per capita income distance. So you can clearly see in the last 40 years, the deviation has increased. See, in 1980-1981, the difference, the ratio, if you divide the per capita income of Tamil Nadu by Uttar Pradesh, means Tamil Nadu by Uttar Pradesh, like 1498 by 1278, the value is 1.17. So the ratio is 1.17. But what has happened in the financial year 2021, 2022? It has actually turned out to be 3.55. So it's very clear that the people who are sitting in the Finance Commission, they're least bothered about it. Because they're seeing this formula. Because, see, they should have actually acted on it. They should have introspected in the year 2000 itself. Because the data clearly says that per capita income between the ratio, deviation, if you take the ratio of the per capita income of a southern state and another state, it's deviating. It's clearly, it's visible here. In 1980, it was 1.17, and 21-22, what has happened? It has turned out to be 3.55. So deviation is clear for us. If you divide by, if you divide by Tamil Nadu's per capita income by Uttar Pradesh, here it is 3.35. There it was 1.17. So what does it mean? There's a deviation. So the income distance is increasing, and the people in the Finance Commission are still using these outdated criteria for devolution of the funds. This is the problem. I can confidently say that we are failing. The fiscal federalism is failing in India because the criteria are outdated. Because they sit there, they are creating these particular formulas, but are we getting results? No, we are not getting, because the data clearly shows it. Because there's a deviation. The next point I would like to tell you is, now, what are the other criteria we are using? We are using population, right? Now, let's see what's going on. From 1951 to the year 2011, I just calculated the CAGR of population. You see the growth rate, CAGR growth rate of population of Andhra plus Telangana, it is 1.68. And how about Rajasthan? It's 2.45%. And how about Bihar? It is 2.147. 2.147. So it's clear. It's very clear. When the population is also diverging. That means what are the criteria they're using? They're using population and per capita income. See, if they look at the real stats, it's very clear. There's a deviation in the per capita income and the population is increasing. And still, the people in the Finance Commission are using this formula. And that is the exact reason. If you start using outdated criteria, we will fail. The fiscal federalism keep failing in India. So this is one important point I would like to tell. The next one is, you can see the estimated rate of natural increase of population. Okay, now in the previous infographic, I talked about 1951 to 2011. Now let's see what the status in year 2020. So the estimated rate of natural increase of population is basically, you can see rate of natural increase is population is equal to the birth rate minus the death rate. So you can see the population in the southern states are failing. And still they have not controlled it. This infographic is a clear indicator that they have still not controlled their population. So when you have not controlled population, if the 16 finance commissions follows the population criteria, we will be losing more money. Okay. And the next one is, this is a very interesting graph. I'll end within 5 minutes. So you see, union government's contribution to Tamil Nadu revenue receipts. Now what exactly this means? So basically, union government gives money to the states in the form of share in the union taxes and union government grants. When I combine together, let's see what has happened. Even in 1960-61, I would like to tell you one thing. In 1960, all the states were relatively poor. They were not rich. Even Tamil Nadu was one of the poorest states in the country in 1960. And when you see 1960, Bihar used to get around 41.88% of its revenue receipts from the union government in the form of share in the union taxes and union government grants. And how much did Tamil Nadu used to get? 27.91. And you see, as you see the graph, from 1960 to 21-22, what has happened? Tamil Nadu, it's getting 34.94%. And what is Bihar? 75.54. Right? Don't you see this? And we are again in the news, we get to see Bihar wants special package. Why do they want special package? Are they able to implement it? No, they have failed to implement it. So it's like the money is put in a black hole. You don't get it back. There is no development. So since we have already discussed the failing federalism, now I will also recommend some suggestions how to improve it. Because I've already explained why the formulas are outdated. Because those formulas are not helping us in any way. No, I will propose some formulas that will actually try to correct it. We can have a question on it anyway. Now this is one more thing. You see, this is per capita income of Tamil Nadu. In 2021, what has happened? The difference in the per capita income between Tamil Nadu is 4.28. If you divide 9311 by 21750, the ratio value is 4.28 you get. And 2324, if you divide 1,79,732 by 32, the per capita income of Bihar, what you will get? 5.58. So you see the deviation. In 2011-12 financial year, the deviation, the ratio, which we calculate is 4.28. And what has happened in 23-24? The per capita income is increasing, right? The income distance is increasing. Don't you see it? See, again, I'm repeating, if 16 Finance Commission follows this outdated per capita income and population, we are going to be doomed in the sense that we will be losing more money. Now, I will put forward some suggestions that is very important to address this issue. So here, it's very important to know, I am suggesting some suggestions. A new yearly devolution formula for the Finance Commission to improve its efficacy. Now, I would like to tell you some interesting facts here. Generally, we present a budget for a year. Budget estimate is for a year. But what Finance Commission does it, they project it for 5 years. I consider this itself is a failure. Because generally when you estimate, budget estimate, the deviation between the actual and the budget estimate is around 10%. But how can a Finance Commission project for 5 years when all the state governments and the union government itself is unable to project the accurate value for the next financial year? So the first correction that needs to be done is Finance Commission, though it is constituted for 5 years, have to give it for 1 year. That horizontal formula should be for every year. That means for every year based on, I'll explain the indicators, that criteria I am putting forward. But anyway, first thing is the Finance Commission, though constituted for 5 years, should give devolution, horizontal devolution formula for every year. A new yearly devolution formula for the Finance Commission to improve its efficacy. Now let's see each criteria in detail. Now so what was the previous, the 14th Finance Commission, the 15th Finance Commission, they are using the outdated, I will call it with conviction that it is outdated because area and all those stuff. Now here I am putting forward Human Capital Index. Now what is Human Capital Index is states showing improvements in skill and safety of citizens receive more funds. I'll give a detailed explanation on this. So when I say Human Capital Index, safety means to create a formula, Human Capital Index, Finance Commission should look out the dropout rate, enrollment rate in education. This is not rocket science. It's very simple. UDIAC every year, Ministry of Education publishes this report. So Human Capital Index, they should look at the dropout rate, enrollment rate, retention rate, and how many female students are enrolling. These things will help us to create a formula regarding the skill. Skill is also how many gross enrollment ratio in higher education. These factors should be taken into consideration to create a formula for Human Capital Index. Now, safety, I personally feel safety should comprise of health as well as the law and order. It's very important. See, health means how many primary health care centers you have, how many doctor population ratio, and the safety is how many police stations you have. It's very important. See, safety of the citizens is primary. See, when I say skill and safety, skill is related to education, higher education. Safety here has two components. I call it as health and law and order. When you have a good policing, you have a better governance. Next one is demography index. See, previously, as we have seen, it's basically dealing with demography is all dealing with population. Just rough, the raw population criteria. But I want to improvise it. States with a higher population density should receive more funds, and also improving TFR. This is very important. Improving TFR means, as of now, the southern states have a TFR of around 1.6, 1.7. Actually, as per sociologists or human scientists or social scientists, they say that 2.1 is the best. 2.1 is the most apt TFR. TFR is total fertility rate. That means how many children a female can have in a particular reproductive age. So 2.1 is a very correct TFR for any country to have a sustainable population. As of now, South Indian states have around 1.5, 1.3. That means our population is decreasing. That means if this continues in 100 years, there won't be any Telugu people in Telangana. Yeah, of course, because our population is decreasing. So this is something we need to be very careful. So when I say improving TFR, meanwhile, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar is having around 3. TFR is 3, 2.4. That means their TFR is more than 2.1. So their population is increasing. So when I'm saying improving TFR, the Finance Commission should allocate money to the states who improves it. Means southern states should improve the TFR from 1.5 to 2.5. If they show any signs of that, they should be given more money. And for Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, if they decrease the TFR from 3 to 2.1, they should be given more money. If they show any signs of decreasing the TFR from 3 to 2.1, they should be given more money. So are you getting the point what I'm telling? So when I'm suggesting this formula because this formula is for evaluating. So it is evaluating the performance of a state. Next one is Sustainable Income Inequality Index. So it's basically we know that our income equality has increased in the last decade. Like 1% of the population holds around 50% of the wealth. So that is not sustainable for a country. So I propose here Sustainable Income Inequality Index. Generally, as per economists, they say 0.3 or 0.4 Gini coefficient is sustainable. So we should have a good mechanism to evaluate it. If a state performs well in decreasing income equality, they should be rewarded more money. And I am allotting 20%. Anyway, that is debatable. You can give 50%. Just for the purpose of explanation, I have put 20% here. Now, disaster mitigation index is another criteria that I'm proposing. What do I mean by disaster mitigation index? Means states that shows improvements in reducing the impact of a disaster. Let's say if a state is able to prepare, if a state is able to prepare well for a disaster and able to mitigate it, they should be allotted more money. For example, if you recruit more personnel into the National Disaster Response Force or State Disaster Response Force, they should be given more money for that. So that is, see, all these indicators are all performance based. Next one is the Environmental Quality Index. So this is very simple. Instead of going for the regular forest cover, it is also talking about the improvements that you can do it in quality of environment. So I have given three indicators. One is increase in forest cover, that is afforestation, reducing air pollution, and reducing water pollution. These two criteria, if you take, you can have a good, see, if a state shows a good sign of reducing the water pollution, they should be allocated more money the next year. As I said, when I was discussing this, I said that we should have a yearly devolution. We should have a yearly devolution means this year a state performs well in reducing water pollution. That state should be awarded more money in the next year. Are you getting it? So what are we doing? We are able to give money to a state for their performance. So presently what's going on is Finance Commission decides a formula. They give money for 5 years. They don't care. The same formula is followed. And what happens is they are giving on outdated criteria. That is population and income distance. And see, why I'm saying outdated, because all data sets clearly prove that we have failed. We have failed. Fiscal federalism has failed. So until we correct this particular fiscal devolution criteria, we won't be in a position to solve it. So these are the 5 criteria that I propose, and I'll end the session with 2 infographics to give an example of what I mean by increasing in forest cover and reducing water pollution. So this is 2 infographics I've created. You can see here Telangana is #1 state in total area afforested from financial year 2014-15 to 21-22. So actually, as per my devolution formula, Telangana should get more money because they have really performed well. They have increased the afforested area. So but unfortunately, what we are doing, we are following some population and per capita income, and actually the Telangana share has decreased. Okay, so this is something we need to. The 16th Finance Commission has to introspect and look into it, because I can confidently say all the 2nd Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission have failed spectacularly in promoting equitable development.
Sir, thank you very much for very interesting and thought-provoking speech. It's also quite interesting to know that Arvind Warriors basically belongs to electronics and communication engineering background, and also master of technology in embedded systems. Maybe he's interested in emerging technologies, so he developed the passion about analyzing the development of states through infographics. Your keynote speech gave different directions to look into why the fiscal federalism failed in India, and because of the criteria are outdated. This is really a point to discuss very serious issue. I think this may be discussed elaboratively in coming sessions. So he has also given some of the ideas to improve that. He said that Finance Commission has to give devolution for 1 year to improve its efficacy, and he stated 5 areas: the human capital capital index and the demography index, sustainable income inequality index, disaster mitigation index, and environmental equality index. So I hope you maybe it's a point of discussion to discuss and debate and come up with the innovative solutions also. So really it is interesting to understand through infographics. Thank you very much for your keynote address on this 2-day national seminar. Thank you very much. I now call upon Dr. Raghavendra for his formal vote of thanks.
I'm sure along with me, the entire presenters as well as the audience would agree with me that this inaugural session is given a tone and it tuned the session for the next 2 days of the national conference, and it also set a direction and it adds rigor and vigor to proceed for the next 2 days of the national conference. It's a very, very learning experience we had today. In this regard, I thank our respected President of the inaugural program, Professor Ganda Chakrapani sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. I thank our chief guest, Professor Pinaki Chakrabarti sir, Distinguished Professor, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, New Delhi. I thank our distinguished guest, Professor V. Balakrishna Reddy sir, Chairman, Telangana Council of Higher Education. And I thank today's keynote speaker, Mr. Arvind Waria sir, life member, the Indian Society for Technical Education. And I thank guest of honor, Professor Pushpa Chakrapani Madam, Director Academic. I thank guest of honor, Dr. L. Vijay Krishna Reddy sir, Registrar. I thank guest of honor, Professor Srinivas Vadanam sir, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences. And I also thank Dr. Krishna Reddy sir, Conference Director, for actually taking this initiative and organizing this conference. And I thank everyone, all the participants and offline as well as the online who are attending this conference. Now we'll break for lunch. Actually, we rescheduled the entire time schedule since the paucity of time. So now we are directly heading towards lunch break. And after that, we are going to witness some interesting topics. Sir, all the dignitaries on the dais, I am confident that this inaugural session is a major takeaway from this 2-day conference. And it is going to add a major, and a sort of motivation for the next sessions to continue. So we'll be joining us here again after the lunch break. And we are going to have panel discussion as well as technical discussions. And I thank you one and all for joining this session. Thank you. As we are discussing economic dynamics, so let us be very economical in maintaining time sense. So let us maintain strict timings, and we'll be joining here sharply, I guess,